Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number 3044-8 2.25-600. This is a double-acting spring hinge is what it is, and it's a epic spring hinge to be sure. This might be the largest spring hinge that Bommer manufactures. This is what's called a clamp style. You can get your use your imagination and sure see why it's called a clamp style. This is going to literally clamp onto the edge of the door, or will, I should say, clamp over, and then you're going to through bolt it. It features the typical Bommer double barrels, allowing a double acting sort of scenario to occur. Okay, let's put that down for a moment. And by the way, it weighs about 11 pounds. Okay, let's go over an overview. The 3044 is their series of clamp-style double-acting spring hinges. It is not the only clamp style that they have. The clamp is that, large U shape that's going to wrap over the edge of the door. They do have their 3024 series that is also a clamp style. It is available in sizes 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 inch, and that's all in relationship to the size of the hinge: 4 inch, 5 inch, 6 inch, 7 inch, 8 inch. It's really a reference to how thick the door is. That's the relationship that's understood. So someone will say, "I need a 6-inch spring hinge." Okay, great. How thick is the door? Is it 1 3/4 inch? Okay, yeah, 6 inches is a good candidate for that. The 3044 is going to be considered the industrial grade version of the clamp style double acting spring hinges from Bommer. The box clamp type door flange is attached to the door with through bolts. In the hardware, you're going to get a mounting package, a package of fasteners. 1, 2, 3. Okay, those holes go through the door. You're going to get 3 hex cap screws for that. You're going to get 3 star washers and 3 nuts. I'm tempted to say this is 5/16. Put the tape measure on it in a moment. 3 inches the overall length of the bolt. Okay, this is for a 2 1/4 inch thick door, so be mindful. It's going to go through the thickness of the door plus the thickness of the clamp on either side to achieve a net proper dimension of 2 1/4 for what it will clamp through. The size of the thread type, I'm just eyeballing it to see if it's 5/16. It looks like it is. Yeah, it is. 0.309 is the diameter of these threads. So it's a 5/16 typical steel hex cap bolt. Probably just a typical caliber bolt. Okay. Grade 3, I believe. Not typical. The jam flange is secured to the jam with screws. There will be 5 of these, what may be 1/4 inch, 1/4 20. Yeah, indeed. 1/4 20 flathead torque style screws. Those are going to go through the jam flange, which is back here, and you see it when the door would be normally opening in 90 degrees, the opposite direction of that frame. Okay, so that's where the 5 screws are going to go into. Okay, that'll be your installation there. The item is made of steel. The 600 in the part number means that it is made of steel and that it is in a prime coat finish. Bommer can supply these hinges and really any finish that they offer on steel, which would be, of course, prime coat, zinc, bright black japanned, satin brass, polished brass, satin chrome, polished chrome, oil rub bronze, satin bronze. They can do all of those finishes. Whatever they can do on steel, they can certainly do on this hinge. It is non-template. That means that the location of the screw holes don't match any sort of standard that you might expect them to adhere to. They don't. They're just particular to this hinge. Standard screws are packed as we... Oh, the size of the bolts are listed in the catalog cut page. That's down below this video, which is what I'm looking at. Okay, let's take a closer look at that. That document down below is called cut sheet. And that's where I'm referring to with all of the data. You can follow along with me there. So where this hinge really leaves its sister product, the 3024, is when you get into the capacity of the door weight of what it will handle. This last order of 8 of these is going to an industrial manufacturing facility in Wisconsin. I don't know what they manufacture there, but it's probably, I believe it to be lumber related. And they do have some really epic sized doors. And they have, believe it or not, a pair of doors that they're going to put 4 hinges each of these onto. So, and I don't know the door width. I believe it to be about 3'6" wide, or they may have been 4 foot. You can see from that table with 4 hinges, they're going to be attempting to swing a door that's 440 pounds for sure. That's an epically heavy type of door that you're going to make move. So the point I'm trying to make is these are indeed absolutely incredibly robust type hinges. Very rare for us to sell because the application where you're going to double act a 400-pound door, I think, is equally rare. So that table is the one to follow. Bommer engages in substantial testing of all their products, and those numbers are there because they're what has been tested in an environment where these hinges have been put to the test, so to speak. The door thickness, of course, has to be specified, and the hinge has to be ordered with the proper door thickness because this clamp, this U-channel, needs to be manufactured for the door thickness. This is, again, a 2 1/4 inch size. Okay, 2 1/4. That's going to be the inside dimension. I'm going to put the caliper on that clamp leaf thickness. 0.138. Yeah, 0.138, so basically 1/8 of an inch steel. Follow that chart. That's what the client and I did on this very heavy industrial application. They need to be able to separate these 2 large facilities from each other, but need to do so in such a way where traffic can move. Now, below this video as well, we're going to be able to look at, the first link is going to be the template for 2 1/4 inch thick door. That document is where the rubber's about to meet the road. So that chart that's there that shows the maximum door weight on the right side is incomplete. It doesn't cover all instances. All of the dimensional properties of the hinge can be looked at on that sheet. And I'll just spot check the clamp height. And you can see that 8 inch is what this is called. It's, nowhere around here are you going to really measure 8 inch. They say that the clamp height is 9 3/8, and I would say that that would be accurate. But again, nowhere around here we're measuring 8 inch. 8 inches is just a dimension that's used really in general as a correlation to how thick the door is, even though with this hinge you have to specify the door thickness. So the rest of the dimensions you can review there. You'll see on the upper left-hand corner where it kind of shows these 2 barrels, how they sit together. It does look a bit funny, but when you see them and how they articulate, you can kind of see why they nest together in that sort of closed position. And that's really because door is going to swing out this way. It's going to come back, hit center, and then swing out this way. And I'm holding this jam leaf flat all the time. Okay. Now, what's really incredibly important to move to when you're trying to figure out what you're doing in terms of your door size is everything in the upper right-hand corner. You have a couple of, you've got some dimensions that you have to think about. First of all, they've got the B clearance. And they have the mortise in door, 1.1 7/8 of an inch. Okay, so the bottom line is you're either going to surface mount your door into this pocket, and it's going to end there. And you're therefore going to have a gap between the jamb and the edge of the door of all this space. If you were to create a large notch in the edge of the door, you would do so to the depth of 1 7/8 of an inch. That 1 7/8 of an inch, 1.875, is going to be that dimension. Okay, so you can take your door and notch the daylights out of it all the way here and down and back over, so that your door is brought all the way to the jamb. Okay. I don't know what this client on this order is doing in terms of the notching. I suspect he's just surface mounting them. So that decision has to be made. Then, on the B clearance, they have an option if you're going to round the door, round edge or radius the door style over, or whether you're not going to. A square edge door requires a 1/4 inch dimension between the edge of the door and the jamb, and that's because you need room for the outside corners of that door to not hit the jamb. If you radius it, think of the top row of tile in your bathroom, that's bull-nosed. Well, if you did a double bull-nose, it's called a radius. If you radiused your door, now it's round, you'd be able to get much closer to the jamb, 1/8 of an inch. Closer, in fact, and leaving 1/8 of an inch. So you're going to be starting with something. Your variable, well, the things you have to calculate. What's my finished opening? Can I modify that if I need to? Probably not. What's my net door width? Can I modify that if I need to? Possibly. What's my hinge size? Okay, I know what that is. I can't change that at all. What am I going to do to the leading style edge of the door? Will I leave it square or radius it? Possibly yes or no. So all of that's going to conspire to come up with what you have to make something to be. You're probably stuck with a finished opening would be my guess. Those walls can't easily move. So you would start with that size, and then you're going to deduct 1/8 of an inch, if you're not mortising it, for the distance between the hinge and the edge of the door, all the way to the opposite end of the door, where you will either allot 1/8 of an inch or a 1/4 inch. I would be really tempted to leave a little bit more, because I think when your door double acts, it kind of goes into an elliptical, movement as well. I think it's of course to be expected that the door actually lifts out ever so slightly as the door is really cycling through its closing cycle, getting to the closed position before it cycles back through. I have clients that call me and say, yeah, when I let the doors go, they just crash into each other. How heavy is the door? 140 pounds. How many hinges are on the door? 2. Okay, that's the problem. You don't have enough hinge power to keep the door up and proud so that when they double act, they don't, go into an elliptical path. So you have to make those decisions. I can't think of a scenario that would make sense to an industrial clamp style hinge. Obviously I would think about mortising the door if I could. I really wouldn't want 1 7/8 of gap on the jamb all the way down the frame. That might look quite unsightly. It just may not matter. This could be a 100,000 square foot building and you're just trying to make a separation between two rooms. You might have an operation happening on one side that doesn't leak any particulate, but line of sight might be something that you want to obstruct. It might be a welding environment on the other side of the wall, and even an occasional glance is not to be tolerated when you have welding. So you might that 1 7/8 gap on the edge of the door may not be a problem at all, because maybe the line of sight is completely interrupted by the jamb and where the door sit. You could actually never see through there to where the operation is occurring. So it may or may not be a problem. So be mindful of making that decision. I would want it to be tied up to the jamb is what I would personally want. It would look more symmetrical in the opening. Even so, you're probably swinging some incredibly epic doors. So there's then a template for the 3044-8. That is a generic document that incorporates, it's the same information, but throws at us the other door thicknesses. Okay. Then the cut sheet that we've gone over. There are the general installation instructions, which is a generic document that covers all double-acting spring hinges from Bommer. But where it comes into play here is certainly the application of where you are going to install the hinge leaves. And that does tie into the actual installation instructions, which are the final link and included here. So I'm going to leave you to review the generic installation instructions and move right to the specific installation instructions. Now you're going to notice immediately where they locate those top two hinges. That is to be adhered to. Don't put them symmetrical. Don't put them where you want. Put them where they say. You've got to have all that hinge power at the top of the door, because 70% of the door's weight is actually borne or hung off that top hinge. So the weight of the door itself is going to work to render the efficiency of the top springs to doing their job to very close to negligible. Having two of them up there is how you're going to compensate for that. So 3-inch down, hinge, 2-inch below them, next hinge. One at the bottom, obviously. That fourth hinge in this customer, you're going to split the distance between the second hinge and the bottom hinge, is what you'll do. The second hinge from the top. So you're going to get your you're going to get your door hung. Let's get into the installation instructions. Remove spring tension by inserting the tension rod packed with the hinges into the tension knob, and rotate knob in the direction of arrows as shown in figure 2. Got it. Clockwise. Okay. And or figure 3. Depends on, we'll talk about that right now. So you've got this here tension collar. When the tension collar is pointed towards the top of the opening, you'll insert that tension rod and turn it clockwise. If you have a pin sticking in there, you'll be able to turn it, pull the pin out, then relax. Now you have removed all of the tension on the spring. Once you pull the included tension pin out, for every order that you place, you're going to get one tension rod, maybe more than one, but you'll get at least one. For every hinge that you order, you'll get enough tension pins. This hinge design requires 2 tension pins. Some require 1. This requires 2. One over on this barrel and one over on the opposite barrel. So when the tension collar is pointed towards the top, you would insert your tension rod, rotate that, and drop a pin in. Repeat the process and continue to crank the unit over. A maximum of 5 holes of tension are to be set. They do not indicate, a maximum of 5 holes. That's the bottom line. That's going to be from 0 to 90, back to 0 to negative 90. Okay. If you hear creaking on the springs, and you have certainly probably passed 5 holes of tension, you're going to want to back that off. Springs don't often break, and when they do break, you'll hear a really loud snap. And that's for sure because too much tension has been set. They never break under normal circumstances when you're setting tension on them. It's only when they're excessively overset is when the problem is. If you find that you have to excessively overset them to get the door to behave, you just don't have enough spring hinges. Or the application's thoroughly wrong for a spring hinge. So in a parador scenario, what they want you to do is on the other side, put the tension collars pointed towards the bottom. They say that this helps the alignment of the 2 doors. Find center. You might need to get behind the hinge leaf, and I've had people call me up and say the doors don't align very well. Well, you're going to need to shim this hinge leaf to be able to cant or tilt the door back or forth. Well, why is that the case? Why do I have to shim it? Well, it could be a lot of reasons. I mean, maybe your jamb is twisted a little bit. A tenth of a degree it could be twisted. Well, over a 4-foot wide single door leaf, or even larger in this case, where you could possibly have a 10-foot opening, those doors could be askew. So think about how you're going to have to most likely shim that. I would think that you'll need to a little bit. I would get some steel flat washers is what I would probably end up doing, or steel shim stock. So you'll turn the tension collar towards the bottom in a pair of doors and then shim as needed. For best alignment of double doors, mount hinges on one door with the tension knobs up and the other with the tension knobs down, as shown in Figure 1. Figures 2 and 3 do talk about how if you install it with the tension collar pointed towards the bottom, you're now going to rotate it counterclockwise. Okay, you're just going to spin them around. Don't exceed 5 holes. Place the door in the closed position. The hinges are attached, the doors are attached, you're in the opening, there's no tension set. Shim them up, wedge them up, shim them properly, start to set your tension. Rotate it in the direction of the arrows. These mythical arrows that they're talking about are on the hinge barrel. I do not see them, so the arrows are referring to the... There are sometimes arrows actually on the hinge barrel. You'll refer to the figures that are there in terms of what direction. Insert tension pin and set your tension. Then carefully, slowly test your doors. I would probably make a judgment call in terms of how many sets of tension I would go immediately. I would probably go towards 4 for sure. And then just carefully start to swing the doors. I'd move one door out of the way, and I would let the other, if it's a pair of doors, I'd let the other one go and test it, and then adjust accordingly to the point where you've got the doors moving in opposite directions where nothing hits. Okay, that would be the point there. So the amount of spring force that's going to be required to get these hinges, to get these doors closing at a speed that would be agreeable to getting a potentially 500-pound door closing, is going to be substantial. There's going to be a lot of inertia. There's going to be a lot of mass and energy moving. So you're going to want to be quite mindful of who is around these doors when they're fully operating. I could see that would be a potentially dangerous scenario. So be mindful of what you're dealing with. If you've got doors that are 2 1/4 thick and you're buying 4 hinges, you're hanging a 400-plus pound door. I mean, if I had a lead-lined door in a hospital, I would have to use really, really unusually thick lead to hit that sort of weight. A standard lead-lined door is not even that heavy. So something's really massive happening when you're looking at these hinges. And lo and behold, we don't sell them very often, as I had mentioned earlier. So that completes all of the links that are down below. These are always made to order. There is always a lead time. These are not sitting on the shelf because that door thickness that has to be defined forces them to be made to order. So be mindful that there's going to be some lead time. I generally find 3 weeks, and on this client's order, I'm looking at their paperwork. It's 3 weeks, 3 weeks and a day that they arrive to us, and here we are making this video. Finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Bommer products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. If you have any questions on the Bommer 3044-8-2.25 and a 600 finish, or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you very much.